morning. We are going to be reading a chapter of Black Beauty today, chapter 35. So in our last chapter, we heard about Captain's story. Do you remember what life was like for a war horse like Captain during the Crimean War? It was overall very hard, as you might imagine, for any horse who was working during wartime. However, he stayed very peaceful whenever his rider was on his back, and he continued to go on in battle very bravely, as long as the rider on top of him was very calm and peaceful. He had purpose in that. So we're going to be hearing a little bit more about Jerry Barker in today's chapter. We already think really highly of him, right? He seems like he is a wonderful owner to Black Beauty. He and his family are all very kind and loving, and he does a very good job of making sure Black Beauty is well taken care of. Unlike the two grooms we've seen recently from Mr. Barry, he makes sure that Black Beauty is well fed and properly cared for and comfortable and clean. So we'll find out more about Jerry in our chapter today. So if you've got your book, you can follow along chapter 35. If not, you can just follow along on the screen. Okay. Now, I never knew a better man than my new master. Wow, high words of praise. He was kind and good and as strong for the right as John Manley, and so good-tempered and merry that very few people could pick a quarrel with him. He was very fond of making little songs and singing them to himself. One he was very fond of was this: "Come, father and mother and sister and brother, come all of you, turn to and help one another." And so they did. Harry, his little boy, was as clever at stable work as a much older boy, and always wanted to do what he could. Then Polly and Dolly used to come in the morning to help with the cab, to brush cushions and rub the glass, while Jerry was giving us a cleaning in the yard, and Harry was rubbing the harness. There used to be a great deal of laughing and fun between them, and it put Captain and me in much better spirits than if we had heard scolding and hard words. They were always early in the morning, for Jerry would say, "If you in the morning throw minutes away, you can't pick them up in the course of the day. You may hurry and scurry and flurry and worry. You've lost them forever, forever and aye." It's a good phrase. You cannot go backwards in time. So as you're letting time pass, be really wise about the day that you have. Can't ever go back and bring those minutes back to you to actually have productive time again. He could not bear any careless loitering. Loitering is a word we'll see pretty often in this with Jerry Barker. Loitering means to kind of wait around for no particular purpose. So especially you'll hear of this word of people who are like in front of a store or restaurant, but they're actually not buying anything from that store or restaurant. But loitering just in general means sitting around, not doing anything. And nothing was so near making him angry as to find people who were always late, wanting a cab horse to be driven hard to make up for their idleness. He does not like when they could have come a little earlier, but they were just probably being lazy, and now they're wanting the horse to work super hard just because they were the lazy one. Doesn't seem fair. One day, two wild-looking young men came out of a tavern close by the stand. And a tavern is kind of like a bar. And called Jerry, so they might be a little bit drunk. "Here, cabby, look sharp. We are rather late. Put on the steam, will you, and take us to the Victoria in time for the 1 o'clock train." So they're saying, "Hurry up, we've got to go." But it's probably not for a good reason. They say, "You shall have a shilling extra." So they're going to give him a little tip if he goes fast. Jerry says, "I will take you at the regular pace, gentlemen. Shillings don't pay for putting on the steam like that." So he's not going to take that tip, not going to take the extra money to go faster. He's just going to go at his normal pace because he doesn't want to overwork Black Beauty. Now, even for some money. Larry's cab was standing next to ours. He flung open the door and said, "I'm your man, gentlemen. Take my cab. My horse will get you there all right." And as he shut them in with a wink towards Jerry, he said, "It's against his conscience to go beyond a jog trot." So he does not want to go faster than just a little jog trot. Then slashing his jaded horse, jaded means his horse is not in a good mood, and he's whipping him hard just to get that extra money from these people. He set off as hard as he could. Now Jerry patted me on the neck and said, "No, Jack," which is Black Beauty's new name, remember. "A shilling nut would not pay for that sort of thing, would it, old boy?" Although Jack was determinedly set against hard driving to please careless people, he always went a good, fair pace and was not against putting on the steam, as he said, if only he knew why. So sometimes he will make the horse run as fast as possible. It's got to be for a good reason. I well remember one morning, as we were on the stand waiting for a fare, that a young man carrying a heavy portmanteau, which is a suitcase, trod on a piece of orange peel which lay on the pavement, and he fell down with great force. Jerry was the first to run over and lift him up. He seemed much stunned. And as they led him into a shop, he walked as if he were in a great pain. Jerry, of course, came back to the stand, but in about 10 minutes, one of the shopmen called him, so he drew up to the pavement. "Can you take me to the Southeastern Railway?" said the young man. "This unlucky fall has made me late, I fear, but it is of great importance that I should not lose the 12 o'clock train. I should be most thankful if you could get me there in time, and I will gladly pay you an extra fare." Is that a pretty good reason to try to hurry up to get somewhere? I would say so. He took a bad fall, that was not his fault, wasn't intended. And now he needs to make it to his train. So Jerry thinks this is a good reason. "I'll do my very best," said Jerry heartily. "If you think you are well enough, sir," for he looked dreadfully white and ill. "I must go," he said earnestly. "Please to open the door and let us lose no time." Now the next minute, Jerry was on the box with a cheery chirrup to me and a twitch of the rein that I well understood. "Now then, Jack, my boy," said he, "spin along. We'll show them how we can get over the ground if we only know why." It is always difficult to drive fast in the city in the middle of the day when the streets are full of traffic. But we did what could be done. And when a good driver and a good horse who understand each other are of one mind, it is wonderful what they can do. I had a very good mouth. That is, I could be guided by the slightest of the rein. And that is a great thing in London. Among carriages, omnibuses, carts, vans, trucks, cabs, and great wagons, creeping along at a walking pace. Some going one way, some another, some going slowly, others wanting to pass them. Omnibuses, which are actual buses, stopping short every few minutes to take up a passenger, obliging the horse that is coming behind to pull up to or to pass and get before them. Perhaps you try to pass, but just then something else comes dashing in through the narrow opening and you have to keep in behind the omnibus again. Presently you think you see a chance and manage to get to the front, going so near the wheels on each side that half an inch nearer and they would scrape. Well, you get along for a bit, but soon find yourself in a long train of carts and carriages, all obliged to go at just a walk. Perhaps you come to a regular block-up and have to stand still for minutes together, till something clears out into a side street, or the policeman interferes. You have to be ready for any chance, to dash forward if there be an opening, and be quick as a rat dog to see if there be room, and if there be time, lest you get your own wheels locked or smashed, or the shaft of some other vehicle run into your chest or shoulder. All this is what you have to be ready for. It's a lot to keep in mind as you're going. If you want to get through London fast in the middle of the day, it wants a deal of practice. Now, Jerry and I were used to it, and no one could beat us at getting through when we were set upon it. I was quick and bold, and could always trust my driver. Jerry was quick and patient at the same time. and he could trust his horse, which was a great thing too. He very seldom used the whip. I just knew by his voice and his click, click when he wanted to get on fast, and by the rein where I was to go. So there was no need for whipping. But I must go back to my story. That was a long segue. So he's talking about all of the things that the London street has. The streets were very full that day, but we got on pretty well as far as the bottom of Cheapside, where there was a block for 3 or 4 minutes. The young man put his head out and said anxiously, remember the man that he's driving, "I think I'd better get out and walk. I shall never get there if this goes on." "I'll do all that can be done, sir," said Jerry. "I think we shall be in time. This block-up cannot last much longer, and your luggage is really heavy for you to carry, sir." Just then, the cart in front of us began to move on, and then we had a good turn. In and out we went, as fast as horseflesh could do it, and, for a wonder, had a good clear time on London Bridge. For there was a whole train of cabs and carriages all going our way at a quick trot, perhaps wanting to catch that very train. At any rate, we whirled into the station with many more, just as the great clock pointed to 8 minutes to 12 o'clock. He's got 8 minutes to get to his train. "Thank God, we are in time," said the young man. "And thank you too, my friend, and your good horse. You have saved me more than money could ever pay for. Take this extra half-crown." "No, sir. No, thank you all the same," Jerry says. "So glad we hit the time, sir. But don't stay now, sir. The bell is ringing. Here, porter, take this gentleman's luggage. Dover line, 12 o'clock train. That's it." And without waiting for another word, Jerry wheeled me round to make room for other cabs that were dashing up at the last minute, and drew up on one side till the crush was past. "So glad," he said. "So glad. Poor young fellow, I wonder what it was that made him so anxious." Jerry often talked to himself quite loud enough for me to hear when we were not moving. On Jerry's return to the rank, that's where he was lined up with the other cab horses, there was a good deal of laughing and chaffing at him for driving hard to the train just for an extra fare, as they said, all against his principles. His principles are like our honor code. There are certain things that he has rules about for a good reason that he does not usually break. But he broke this rule. Was it for a good reason? Yeah, this man needed to rush to get to his train. He was not being lazy. He fell. He hurt himself. That's why he couldn't be there on time. So it was all against his principles, they said, and they wanted to know how much he had pocketed. "A good deal more than I generally get," said he, nodding slyly. "What he gave me will keep me in little comforts for several days." "Gammon," said one. "He's a humbug," said another, preaching to us and then doing the same himself. "Look here, mates," said Jerry. "The gentleman offered me half-a-crown extra, but I didn't take it. 'Twas quite pay enough for me to see how glad he was to catch that train. And if Jack and I choose to have a quick run now and then to please ourselves, that's our business, not yours." "Well," said Larry, "you will never be a rich man." "Most likely not," said Jerry. "But I don't know that I shall be the less happy for that. I've heard the commandments read a great many times, and I never noticed that any of them said, 'Thou shalt be rich.' That does not mean that you'll be happy just to be rich. And there are a good many curious things said in the New Testament about rich men that I think would make me feel rather queer if I was one of them." So he means there are things said in the New Testament of the Bible that say a rich person, possibly it's more likely that they might have some bad behaviors. They might be really selfish with their money, for example, or have a hard time looking out for others. "If you ever do get rich," said Governor Gray, looking over his shoulder across the top of his cab, "you'll deserve it, Jerry. And you won't find a curse come with your wealth. As for you, Larry, you'll die poor. You spend too much in whipcord." Now, Larry whips his horse too much, So he uses more whipcord because he's rushing the horse to get from place to place, hurting the horse. And it's also going to hurt him in the end because he's eventually going to be losing money. Well, said Larry, what is a fellow to do if his horse won't go without it? You never take the trouble to see if he will go without it. Your whip is always going as if you had the St. Vitus's dance in your arm, and if it does not wear you out, it wears your horse out. You know you are always changing your horses. And why? Because you never give them any peace or encouragement. So not only is it just best to treat horses and certainly other people very kindly and lovingly, but also Jerry ends up getting better work because he sticks with the same horse and they know how to work together very well. Well, I've not had good luck, said Larry. That's where it is. And you never will, said Governor. This is Governor Grant. Good luck is rather particular who she rides with, and mostly prefers those who have got common sense and a good heart. At least that is my experience. Meaning, luck is not really luck. People have a lot of times good luck or good things happen to them if someone has common sense, they do things in a smart way, and a good heart. Sometimes that happens, other times good things can happen to people who maybe haven't done anything to really deserve it, though. Now, Governor Gray turned round again to his newspaper, and the other men went to their cabs. So that is the end of the chapter. Now, Jerry Barker, he is a good man who shows our honor code. Let's think through some of the ways that he does show our honor code. I know you can't see it super well over there, but we've got honor. Would you say he honored anyone by the actions in this chapter? Well, I would say he honors Black Beauty by always treating Black Beauty with respect, going over to respect as well, doing the right thing for Black Beauty, not just focusing on himself getting extra money. He also honored the young man who was hurt by doing something good and kind to him, serving him when he really needed a little help. He respected him too, showing respect and service to that man, don't you think? And I think he completely strives for excellence in all that he does. Jerry is not focused on just doing something good, like going fast to get extra money. He knows that it's important and valuable to do good work just for the sake of doing good work, being a good steward. He does excellent work with all of the things that he does. He wants Black Beauty to too. That's Jack now, is Black Beauty's name. And perseverance, fulfilling commitments, and not giving up or acting on discouragement. Some people, if they had friends who were making fun of them, might get discouraged and maybe want to give up on their principles, but instead, he still holds on to his principles and does what he thinks is the right thing to do. So, and it shows. Jerry ends up getting benefited from that. A lot of times good things come to him and happen to him. And he has a really full and happy life. And a lot of that is because of the decisions that he's making. He makes really good decisions. Okay, you've got some questions to answer about this chapter, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.